Tango 1 at the top. We are at Pop Up Vehicle. 10-4, Tango 1. You have control. Tango 1 copy. Stand by. Stand by.
Integrity, passion, resilience. That's what this place was built on. That's what our community is founded on. Don't act like the example, just be the example. This is the home of the greatest fitness community in the world. We're trying to create strong, able bodies, resilient to injury with a gas tank to get shit done. If there's one thing from this podcast, it's about taking immediate action, find the problem, fix the problem. This is your opportunity. It's either a hell yes or a fuck no. It's that simple. You're ruining the Tango 1 podcast. Now is the time to take action. Now's the time to do more and be more.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Tango 1 podcast. I'm your host as always, Tony Smith, here to help you guys move towards the mission by taking some action and introducing you to some people in my network and using their experiences to help motivate you. And today I got one of my good friends, former just a guest, but now we've become like, since that very first episode, we've become like such good friends. I got Sean Bacon on here. He's from Dynamic Shift Consulting, and he's coming to us live from Victoria, BC. So welcome back, brother. This is one of the most viewed and liked episodes we ever had, was the one with you.
Oh, outstanding. I love that.
I know you're as shocked as I am.
I know, right? I am.
Yeah, so if you guys go back, you guys can see the first episode with Sean was just absolutely awesome. We talked about mindset. We talked about a lot of the things that we didn't even know where that conversation was going to go. But what was awesome about that is the second we hung up on that episode, I was like, man, I'm like hooked into the right guy, because from there you've started to mentor me in my own consulting stuff, and that's what we're going to talk about today, is kind of like where Dynamic Shift is going, what Dynamic Shift's doing, and what it's all about. So let's have at her.
It's funny. It's hard to believe we've been going at it for 10 years. Because it's, in some ways, it just feels like we got started. And when we first started, if it wasn't for really good people mentoring myself and my business partner, Robin, we wouldn't be where we are today. So it really isn't, a one-person show. It really was a collaborative effort to get us to where we are now. And now here we are, and we just realize that it can no longer just be us. I have met so many good people and have had the privilege of mentoring some really amazing human beings that we saw the opportunity to bring them on board and get them out doing it as well, and getting their light to shine. Excuse the metaphor, but because that's what it is. It's one thing I learned in the military was surround yourself with people that are better than you, smarter than you, and then take the leash off and let them do what they do best. And that's what we're doing now. We've just onboarded 3 amazing people. You happen to be one of them. So, and we're excited to see, what you guys are going to do.
That's amazing. So like, this started 10 years ago, and we'll talk about the unit, I guess, as we go. I get to hear my name a little bit, which is awesome. But so 10 years ago, and also, like you just said, your business partner, Robin, does she is she gonna listen to this? I don't know that she just don't want to be referred to as your business partner, Robin.
Oh, Robin's also my wife. She's my business partner. I poached her from the Canadian Revenue Agency. So she is the business, period. Point blank, dead stop. She is the business. I'm the facilitator, the educator, and she is the real workings of the business. She runs everything from top to bottom. And this business could not grow in the capacity that it has if it was not for her. And, it's often when I'm working with, my clients, I refer to her as my business partner. I refer to her as my colleague. And I try to delineate those two, because people have this way of, oh, she's your wife, or, oh, he's your husband. We have a way of softening that somehow in its importance. So I delineate that with my clients, going, this is my business partner. And she happens to be my wife, which is like the best thing ever. So, if it wasn't for bringing Robin on board, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Yeah, I call her the gatekeeper, man.
She is.
Everything that happens goes. I got to go through her, and you know what? And rightfully so, because the two of us wouldn't even be able to organize this call. I tried to do the calendar invite without Robin today. I did it. She always does them. I did a calendar invite today, and I had to send 3 emails and a text to be like, "No, this link, not that link." So, so I should have just, you know, she offered to do it too, and I was like, "No, I'm going to prove to her that I can do it," but I should have just asked her.
No,
She would
you
have
did
gladly
fine. You
done
did
it. She
fine.
probably would have like sent the video to me in perfect form too, and saved me 10 steps, you know, about a quarter of the time. So yeah, man. So like 10 years ago, like if you hadn't listened to Sean speak before, he's got some, he's a former military guy. He's got just a wide variety of different experiences. And I think that's one of the things that you best bring to the table is like, you're not just a military guy. You're not just a martial arts guy. You're not just a fitness guy. You've got this like wide variety of things. So kind of like, how did you go from all those experiences to consulting? Like, where did that stem?
You know, I tripped into it. Like, I literally fell into it. When I left the military, I was not in a good place. You know, I went to school in massage therapy. I walked away from law enforcement and military. I was fairly embittered, and then had this realization: no one would hire me for anything. If as long as there was the military on my resume, no one was hiring me. And I got a job as moving furniture with a furniture company, and then a veteran who owned a gym, beautiful brand new 10,000-foot gym in British Columbia, and he knew who I was, what I was capable of, what my resume was, and he says, you don't belong here. You're going to work for me. And then I started training people, and I started applying the methodologies I would use in preparing soldiers in law enforcement, preparing their brain and their body. And then the realization of it's really your brain, your body will follow. And it was fairly controversial at the time, as people are going, oh, people aren't going to like that. And it had a huge following. And then I was working as an on-field trainer and mental performance coach for the Okanagan Hockey Academy. And I met a gentleman whose grandson was in the hockey academy, and I was doing all the dryland training, and it looked a lot like military. I mean, there was leopard crawling, and there was, body dragging and push-ups, and kids love it. Kids are great because they just absorb it. It turns it, turn it into a game, and they enjoy it. And he liked what I was doing. He gave me his card, and I kind of my mindset wasn't in a good place, so I just didn't really think much of it. And then 6 months later, it was Robin that said, hey, you really need to call this guy because you're onto something here, and you're doing it part-time. Now, at this point, I had gotten a job as a security manager for an oil sands project up north, and I was gone for 2 weeks, home for 1 week. I was missing out on my family's life. My daughter was graduating, and, I was like, yeah, this is the wrong thing. And it doesn't matter how much money I was making. It just was the wrong thing. And so I reached out to him. His name is George Melville, and he was the chancellor at the time for Kwantlen University here in British Columbia. I reached out to the university and said, look, I know you can't give me his number. I had lost his business card. Hey, my name is Sean Bacon. Here's my number. Could you get him to call me if it's okay? And I gave him the scenario. Within the hour, he called me back. And he says, if you can make it out to Vancouver, I'll have a meeting with you. And he gave me an hour of his time. And when I met him, I don't know what he was expecting. Maybe he was expecting me to say, hey, I'm starting a business. Can you, can you support me financially or something like that? And I said, no, I just need I need a mentor. I don't know business. I need a mentor. And he said, yes, right away, bang. And then introduced me to my second mentor, which is Nancy McKay. And from that point, the two of them grew me into leveraging that diverse knowledge into a workable business, because the leaders I realized in the civilian market, I always assumed they had the same knowledge we did in the military, and then realized, my God, they don't. There's no practical leadership. There's no there's no tools to deal with crisis. There's no mindset training. There's no team development. There was a lot of misunderstandings of what leadership is and management. So all of a sudden, we became this fresh voice, and we grew that, and we became very niche in our offerings. And it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And here we are 10 years later. I love what I do. I love who I work with. And more importantly, I've met a lot of great facilitators and educators and leaders that are ripe and ready to offer what they do that is atypical from the average leadership facilitator that's out there. And there's a lot of really good facilitators out there, don't get me wrong, but they all seem to be playing off the same sheet of music. So strangely enough, is I'm always looking for that atypical human being that's going to do it differently, that's going to bring a value that's tremendously different to the client.
Right. So, and you went from, the Okanagan hockey team to businesses. I don't want to name any businesses that I'm aware of because I've done a little bit of work with you, but like, let's say like massive, like Canadian wide international businesses.
Yeah. Scotiabank, BDO, BDC.
Right. I didn't know if we had free to say those.
Yeah,
So,
we
those
are
are
free to say that.
clearly like
No
anybody
worries.
who's listening, like those are off. I mean, we're not talking about the local branch. We're talking about like the capital in Toronto, like the head office in Toronto for some of these places. And that in itself is just insane, the growth there. And I approached you. We were introduced from a friend, Noah, who goes to the Kingsville gym. And he's part of that McKay group, and that's where he had heard you speak. And he said, you need to meet this guy, Sean. And you took the time for me with no other than this little short email that Noah had sent. And I reached out to you seeking to kind of build same kind of business. As I've fallen in love with the actual speaking and watching and motivating people and leveraging experiences and teaching that. And you started to do the same thing that you just described for me, which is awesome to hear, because it's almost like pay it forward kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And at just a certain point in the last probably 18 months, I did a couple of like little gigs with you where I was, not not co-instructed, but I was like, I was like the, let's say, eighth instructed. I was there as like the assistant trying to learn from you. And I left the first event with you, a Scotiabank event in Niagara Falls. And it was probably right around this year, because I remember we sat through a snowstorm in Niagara Falls.
Yeah, that's right.
Having a nice keg dinner and a nice big glass of wine to kind of celebrate our first gig together. And got home and said to my wife, I'm like, this is what I'm on. This is the right path. It's the right path. And then over the next months and months and months, I realized as you were mentoring me and I was trying to build my own thing, that it was like, man, what am I doing here? Why don't I like, I just feel like the difference, like listening to you, that was a 10-year growth period, right? And at 45 and these gyms, which I still love to do, I was just like, I didn't see that how I could ever build the business to be to the point where I can make the impacts that you're making without, and I just threw it out there. I said, hey, Sean, one day, would you want some help? I was like waiting. I was like, you say something and you're kind of waiting for like almost like, oh, did that just end? I just asked him out on a date. He's going to reject me. We've been just friends. Like, it was kind of like that thing, and you were like, no, you embraced me, man. It was like, it was good. The best. I'm like, he's going to take me out. Yeah. And that was one of the best feelings. I remember you were kind of caught off, and I never seen you caught off guard until I asked you that question that day. And it was like, I just saw this like come over your face. I'm like, oh shit. And then it was opposite. It was awesome.
Yeah, I'm not caught off guard too often, but I'll be honest with you. I enjoy the process of being caught off guard because it forces me to think differently. And I quickly have to process, and the big thing is if it's a no, why? And if it's a yes, why? Well, to me, it was, well, yes, let's see where this goes. Like, what's the harm? If it fails, it fails. No big deal. Like, we both learn, we'll grow, and we'll carry on. So that's the way I looked at it. When you threw that at me, I was like, and it's interesting because a friend of mine actually introduced me to this idea, this concept, and it's called the hell yeah concept. And I got to give him credit. We served together in the military police. We were both paratroopers in Petawawa together. We were both academy instructors at the MP Academy. His name's Andre Valet. And he says he calls it the hell yeah protocol. If it's not a hell yeah, it's a hell no. So nothing sits in the middle. It's either hell yeah or it's no. And I love the simplicity of it because it just takes away all the vagueness, all the ambiguity. So when you asked me, I was like, hell yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Let's do this. Because what's the worst that's going to happen? It doesn't work out. You grow, I grow. Best case scenario, You grow, I grow, the business grows, clients benefit, value improves, rock stars. So for me, it's, I don't believe necessarily all, in the win-win scenario. There's very rarely a win-win. That's just the way life kind of works. But when it does offer itself that way, you're a fool not to say yes. So for me, it was easy.
I guess I took that a little out of sequence. We didn't do a gig together until I had brought that up to you.
Yeah.
I was doing some on my own, and you were encouraging them, and I felt like I was killing it. And I was, but I was doing these ones in front of people, like 40 people, 30 people. And I was like, man, I love this so much. I really want to speak in front of like more people and do bigger things. And then once you kind of took me on officially or unofficially, it was like less of an official than we were about to talk about, I guess, in a little bit. But you put me up in front of like, I think it was like 100 people within like, and I wasn't expecting to speak that day. So we're in Niagara Falls. So I can paint this picture for people. We're in Yuck Yucks or something in Niagara Falls. It was a weird spot to have a business conference, which was cool. But we were up on the stage, and I was off the stage. I'm just kind of like facilitating anything you needed me to do, and you just out of nowhere, you threw me the ball, and I was like, oh shit, like it's time for me to talk, and I just gave her hell, and that's how this thing kind of even blossomed more, and it was cool to you because like part of your hell yeah was that you. And I find that this happens to me in all kinds of things in life is like, you were toying with this idea for, you said, a better part of a year.
Yeah.
And never really took action on it. And then when I spoke to you, it's almost like you had like, I don't want to say manifested, but like that manifestation of what was going on and you thinking and, maybe mentoring me with no intention of that going there. And then all of a sudden I bring it up and you're like, this is exactly where I want to go. And then now, here we are almost a year and a half, maybe since that conversation where that happened. And it's not just me. It's like, it's the unit, which you've launched this week, but I say we now, cause I'm on the team, man.
Yeah. You're a part. This is it. It's, we stand together, we fall together. So it is a we.
Yeah. So let's talk about the unit. So
sure.
Enough about me. People listen to this podcast. They know lots about me. Let's talk about the rest of the team.
Okay. Well, it's interesting because back to manifestation of intent, like I don't believe in accidents. I don't. And my mantra is everything happens for a reason. I may not understand the reason or see the reason, but everything does happen for a reason. We just don't always get the vision of it. But all of a sudden, all this coalesced together, because I was mentoring several people for an extended period of time, and it just kind of organically came together. There was no forcing it. And when you asked, I was sitting there going, well, we can take this further. We can definitely take this further. And when I approached the other two, which I'll introduce in a moment, it was very interesting to watch them do the same thing as I did. I pause, wait, assess, yes. Okay. And they really bring something really different. Like you and I have a lot of similarities. And I love that about us. And we also have differences, obviously, because that's what makes it better. However, the other two in the unit bring an absolutely beautifully diverse and unconventional intellectual property to the table. So let's talk about the other two. The other two, let's start with Sam. Samantha Panter. Now, Sam and I attended massage therapy school together. She's Indigenous. She's from Haida Gwaii. She's two-spirited. She has a beautiful family. She has got a tremendously gorgeous and different way of looking at diversity, inclusion, equity, equality, inclusivity. Like she is atypical, but she lives it. She absolutely lives it every single day. And she's not a tick in the box HR person. This is what it means. This is what it looks like. This is how you build a culture. This is how we build bridges. This is how we collaborate versus us versus them. This is how you understand us. She has a passion that literally drives action. Now, a lot of people could say that's normal. No, it's not. Motivation. People call me a motivational speaker. Motivational speaking is finite. You can motivate anyone for 5 minutes. Passion, however, is the fuel. People with passion will go the distance every single time. Even if they fail, even if they fall down, they'll get themselves up. That passion continues to drive them. And she has that passion. And she is fierce, and she is thoughtful, and she listens differently. And she has pushed my boundaries of understanding. And that's what I like. I like when people push back at me. I mean, you can't be an ex-cop with a name like Bacon and be sensitive. Okay, it just doesn't work. So she's the very first day we, whoops, sorry about that. Talking with my hands. The very first day we met, she pushed my boundaries. Like, who do you think you are? You know, who are you? So that became this very unusual friendship way back when. And she had a message that just couldn't get to an audience. She has this great intellectual property that just could not get to an audience. So we want to give her an audience. We want to leverage what DSC has and give it to you and her and Andrea, which now leads me to Andrea. And
Yeah.
Andrea,
So cut you off there for one sec. Sam has been on the show.
Oh yeah.
If you wanted two-spirited, that's probably a new word to a lot of people listening to this. And maybe not so much out west. Like we will say, like Sam and I talked greatly about this. There's not many, there's just not a culture that's very much in front of us here, right? Yeah. So we have Windsor's actually the most culturally diverse place, and I think in Canada, but we don't have we're not in front of too many Aboriginal or Canadian Native, however you would like to speak, but we're not in front of that very often. So if you want to listen to that episode, it's a great episode. Sam gets right into it. And you said about you, like when you introduced us, I was like, oh man, I don't know that me and this lady, me and Sam are going to jive on this podcast. Right. And even like, because we are very different, but we hit it off right away. We're already, and I cannot wait to meet her or in person. We were already joking about that. We did an hour on the podcast. We spoke for another hour after the podcast, and it's just like the perfect kind of yin and yang. And it's very interesting. I would very much suggest going back and listen to that episode. And then Andrea, I haven't met her yet. So please introduce her.
Andrea Neal is a Canadian legend in soccer specifically. She is in 4 Hall of Fames for soccer, including the Whitecaps Ring of Honor, the Canadian. She's an absolute Canadian legend. Prior to Sinclair, she was the most capped player. She was the assistant coach of the women's national team. She was on the women's national team. I mean, she is a tremendous leader. She knows how to develop high performance teams. And we met when I was working mainly in athletics and doing mindset training and team development. And she gave me a chance to work with her when she was the head coach of the UBC women's soccer team. And we put them through the ringer. Like we made them do sugar cookies. And for those of you that don't know what a sugar cookie is, that's when you dump someone in the lake. They come out, they roll themselves in the beach sand, and then they do that about 4 or 5 times. And then they train Sandy, covered in dirt and sand and wet and cold. And and we train them that way. And to show them that they could go beyond their emotional state, or they can go beyond their preconceived notion of what limitations were. And she gave us permission and to do that, which is a really difficult thing because she cares from a very deep level. So she has this deep empathy on one side. She's this beautiful dichotomy. She has this deep empathy on one side, and yet she has this ferocity of competition on the other, and knows how to push people. So when we brought her on board, like she talks about team development, culture, psychological safety. She comes at it from this really unique perspective of that dichotomy. And she's got the experience of leading people, predominantly women, but people, through competition, difficulty, adversity, toxicity. And she came out thriving. So to say, both Sam and Andrea are sisters to me. I'm so very proud of our friendships. I've learned so much from both of them. And I thought that they were what was needed to balance point. Well, you and I, we all bring similar things to the table, We are all very competitive. We're all very dynamic. We are all driven people, but we all come at it from a very different perspective. And I think that is what is required, because I think right now in society, we have all gotten very attracted to people of similar opinions. Okay. And unfortunately, nothing grows from that. We need a diversity of opinions, the ability to have discourse, the ability to offer different options in order to have a bigger and more full message. Will we ever have the complete message? Unlikely. However, we can have a very full message for the client. And that's what the unit brings. We each brings a specialty to the table that is in harmony with each other. And we know how to leverage each other's differences and similarities. And if you think about any high performance team or unit, performance on demand team or unit, that's what each unit brings to the table. And the unit's not going to stay the three of, with the three of you or the four of us, it's going to grow. And I'm going to look for those people that are going to do exactly that. Bring that little piece that's different to the table, that's going to change the way people do what they do, and create action. And create action, because theoretical is great. The litmus test is, can you action it? And can you learn from that action and then evolve that action? So that's what the four of us are going to do. And that's what the three of you bring to the table. I'm so proud to call you the unit, because my happiest days in the military is when I was with an airborne unit. Excuse me. And the attitude, the prevailing attitude that unit had to adversity and problems and missions and exercise, it didn't matter. There was this prevailing powerful attitude that the unit came together and supported each other. And we were very powerful together. And that's what I'm hoping for us.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. Like, I think there's so much that could be unwrapped from that. And I think, like what you said, like, the name, the unit, I didn't know it until just a few days before launch, when you guys sent out the kind of like the what do you guys think type of email to the three of us. And I was so happy too, because I know people around here, they probably laugh when they hear the unit is like,
yeah,
they'll ask me about somebody. I'm like, oh yeah, he was on my unit. And they know that means a little bit more to me than, yeah, he was on the job with me, like, meaning kind of any cop. I have some cops that are very tight with me, but then when I say he's on the unit, there's this other level of trust and of love that goes on between that team. And on every great team, I agree, whether I was playing football or on my unit or here in the gym, like, if we step out just outside this office where we have our meetings, there's a very, very difference of opinion in a lot of areas, and a very, very different approach to problems. But I can tell you that the approach in all of those teams and all those units is growth. And that is growth for the people that we serve. That's growth for each other. And that's how we push each other. For when we're all the same, I've said that very much. Like, when I was the SWAT team leader, there was like SWAT team leader A, SWAT team leader B, and that had nothing to do with rank. It was just Alpha team, Bravo team. And when those two leaders were similar, our team did not thrive. When we had a difference, people who just did it differently, we did. And even here in the gym today at 4:00, the gym will fill up, and they are we're bench pressing. And when they bench press, if you put 4 different coaches, and you're going to see people, and if you and I went over and there's 2 coaches, me and him, that are very similar, we'll say it the same way, and it won't click, it won't click, it won't click. Danny or one of the other females will come in and they say it in a different way, and all of a sudden it clicks.
Yeah.
And for that person, and all of a sudden the bench press goes up, and really, like, dynamic shift. We're just trying to increase the reps, the strength, the power that's being produced. It's just for an organization rather than individual bench pressing, right? Like, I think it really is applicable, and I love where we're going with this, and I cannot wait, man.
Yeah, me too. I always try to come at it from a point of curiosity. And I'd have no problem with failure. If we fail, failure is a learning point, not an end state. So I have no fear of failure, but I am curious, and I'm curious to see how we work as individuals, as partners, as teammates, as a whole unit, and all the different levels that brings. I'm very curious to see how it grows. And that's a great place to start from. And, I have no worries. I have no worries of any kind. I am excited though. And in that excitement, I'm eager to get you guys out there. I'm eager for our clients to engage with you and get to know you the way I know you and build that relationship. And that's the thing I love about the three of you is our relationship isn't transactional. It's an honest to goodness relationship. And that's the key. People say, well, what's the key to success? Relationships. Oh, no, what about this? No, relationships. End state. Relationships. Just don't make them transactional. Make them honest. Make them authentic. Care. And also be candid. Because a great relationship, you can have a differentiation of opinion, of dialogue, intellectual discourse, and still have respect for each other. And I cannot wait to see how you guys bring that to the table. And I'm just so stoked. I can't even begin to tell you guys how stoked I am.
Yeah, I agree. And when you say transactional, like I assume that you're speaking on like it's not like you do me one, I owe you one, and that like back and forth, which you see in so many relationships. It's like, yeah, well, I did this for you, you got to do this for me. And like even in husband and wives and parenting, it's like I change one diaper, you got to change one diaper. It's like, well, no, like I'm also over here doing this, and you're over here doing this, and and of course I'm going to jump in, and you're going to jump in. Like that's the relationships I think have built, and even if you think about that from transactional, I think with like finances, I think it's like awesome that we had before we're actually working in business, we have like a friendship and a relationship. I've always heard growing up and before I got into business, like don't mix money with friends and don't do business with friends. And honestly, God, I don't do business with anybody that I don't consider a friend or I don't stay. Like I need to build at least some kind of relationship with anybody that I will partner in, because to me, it's more than a financial investment. It's I am investing everything. It's like my passion, my livelihood, my my family, my time away from sacrifice time away from my family. It has to be with somebody that I have some type of relationship with. And I think that's the importance is like you had relationships with all of us with zero intent of this happening. We all have legitimate friendships with you before any of this was happening. And I think that's going to make that much stronger, and that bond where we can say what we need to say to each other and we can get things done on another level, because it's not going to be counted by the hour. It's exactly. Because we would do it no matter what. Right? At the end of the day, we would do it no matter what.
And that also comes down to character. This is an interesting conversation in and of itself. I'm going to try not to go down a rabbit hole here. But in terms of, especially, after COVID, people were talking about recruitment and onboarding and retainment. And people were hiring because they just needed bodies. They just needed workers. They needed people engaged. Character. I mean, when you hire good character, that character, that high level of good character, they stay longer. They commit more. They take ownership. They have a higher level of accountability. They drive harder. They support each other more. Imagine if we actually hired on character, because talent is overrated. And I can teach a person a skill set. I can even augment someone's skill set. But character, oh my God, hire character and you'll have a person that will invest in your business, your mission, your vision, all of it. And that's what I did. I invested in relationships and character. And look what I have. I have a unit that I'm deeply proud of and can't wait to deploy. How many people can say that?
Not many. Yeah, that's awesome. So speaking about relationships and friendships and stuff, I know like through our friendship that you like to do a January challenge, and we've embarked on a similar one. So this is me. Now I've turned into fitness coach, and you're and your student. Here we go. But so how are you making out this January challenge? And maybe you'll just tell us about it, because people are interested. A lot of people really knock on the like New Year's resolutions. I'm a big believer in it. Like I do the same. I mean, my New Year's for my business is November, but we sit down and we like rip apart our business. We set new goals. Like, why would you not do that with your life? And if January 1st is the day to do it, then fuck, so be it. Sorry about the
Yeah.
F-bombs, guys. I haven't been on the podcast in a while. This feels weird
It's all
swearing.
good. It's all good, brother.
It's your collared shirt's throwing me off with my swear words.
Well,
But anyways, how's it going in January? What are you up to?
every year, actually, for as long as we've had the business, Robin and I do a 1-month cleanse every year. And the cleanses change from year to year, or sometimes we'll find one that's a little more successful than others. This year we tried carnivore and intermittent fasting combined. We also go dry for the month of January. We commit to the month. And, especially when you're coming off Christmas, damn, you're eating all this great food, you're drinking, you're socializing, and then boom, January 2nd, done. And it's your body almost doesn't know what to do with you. It's like, but wait a minute, So will I say it's easy, especially carnivore? No, not even a little. I actually had the misunderstanding, the assumption that I was going to really look forward to the carnivore diet because, meat, I'm a carnivore. I love meat. I'm starting to look forward to some veggies. So, but yeah, no, it's been going. Sincere challenge, as always. Anything worth doing is a sincere challenge. And then this year, every year I take on a challenge that makes me uncomfortable. A couple years ago, it was I took on 2. I did the Everesting challenge with a very dear friend of mine named Jim Cressman, the CEO and president of Invictus Entertainment. And I also relearned how to ride a motorcycle so I could ride with my son. So that 2 very uncomfortable things. This year, my intention is to move to the Azores, the homeland of my grandfather. I'm a citizen. It's a big challenge. I'll still do my business here in North America as well as the UK and the EU. It's a nice central point, but it's scary as hell, and I'm excited, but I'm scared. And if you do not pick something to do every year, that's not going to push you, you're never going to grow. And it could be anything. It'd be learning a new language, learning a new skill set, whether it's dietary, maybe it's, you just want to change the way you eat or change the way you train. Maybe you're a power lifter and you need to actually do something a little more full body. I'm not suggesting CrossFit per se, but something, more calisthenics. It doesn't matter what you choose. Maybe it's a new martial art. Maybe it's underwater cake decorating. I don't know. But at the end of the day, do something that's going to push your boundaries. And so this year, those are the 2 things. And if it was easy, then, everyone would do it. That's why it's called a challenge.
Yeah. For me, I dove in. It was funny because we didn't plan this together. I told you I was actually doing the carnivore challenge for January. I think being in the fitness industry and nutrition, Danny has, with her, she had their neck surgery and stuff. So she finds that there's things that we don't try to mess with her nutrition when it's going right and she's not getting any kind of headaches or whatever. We leave that alone and she's doing great. So, but it's I am kind of the guinea pig where, people start to ask about these things. I feel like we need to put a little bit of research, of our own. We're very big on let's not go fad. Let's what's worked for years and years. And I mean, meat has worked for years and years. So, I'm doing the carnivore, and also it's funny you say that, I have no cravings. I'm loving it right now.
Okay,
I
cool.
feel fantastic. But I'm telling you, my first cheat meal is going to be a freaking grape or a strawberry or a grapefruit. When I make my kids breakfast, I make my kid breakfast most days. Eggs, a piece of toast and some fruit is generally what's going to be out on their plate for breakfast. And I want to grab that fruit the last couple of days. I can't believe how much I want that fruit. So is this a forever thing for me? I don't know. I mean, I feel great. I'm also I'm blending in fasting. I did 1 day of fasting the first week, which was 2 weeks ago, 2 days last week. And I'm doing 3 days this week. So I'm only a few hours left into the 24. I'm going to take a day off. And then I'm going to give her a hell and see if I can go for 48. And then next week. But also funny is in that challenge is the fasting for the health, but where I'm seeing the fasting on this carnivore diet is paying in the piggy bank, because that is like one day where I am not eating like a steak and like 5 pounds of other meat at who knows what godly cost that we're paying with these days. So
Yeah,
especially if you're sourcing proper meat, right? That's been one of the nice things about but I have zero cravings for
very
rice
cool.
or pasta. The other day there was some pizza out at the football game was on. All my good buddies were, that's generally where I would have a beer. I would definitely have 1 to 12 pieces of pizza in a sitting, and you know, resisting that pizza. The pizza was probably the one thing I haven't really had a challenge with. But man, you know what? Honestly, from not drinking and maybe, carnivore, keto style, like higher fat diets are proven to kind of clear your brain a little bit.
Hmm.
I feel good, man. Like really good. And I'm curious of where this is gonna go and like how long I might hang on to it. Maybe a little bit longer
Yeah,
than I really anticipated. But I'm down like 8 pounds. And
yeah,
yesterday, like hit my bench press at probably the most I've been able to bench in years. So
very
I'm
cool.
feeling good. And like, but you never really know. Did we just took a bunch of sugar and alcohol out of our diets, right? And other distractions that come with
Mhm.
it. So you don't know that it's the carnivore. You don't know that it's the vegan. You don't know that's the keto. You just, at the end of the day, intermittent fasting too, you've closed the window of what you're going to eat.
Yeah,
So you took out a lot of bad shit, a lot of distractions, and
exactly.
you're really focused in. So like, I agree with you. If you don't do something, you're going to do nothing. Right. And motivation is fleeting and actions last forever. So I like those kinds of things I think are really paying off. And I'm feeling great. I'm glad to hear that yours staying strong as well. If you get the urge, like send me a message in the middle of the night and I'll send you back like a something like a
Oh yeah,
thumbs down. No, don't touch that. Don't do it, man.
yeah. I'll tell you, because I'm food motivated.
You are. I know that about
Oh,
you.
huge food motivated. For me, food is more than just sustenance. It's an event. It's something you enjoy. It's something you share. You break bread with people, and so that for me, it's that I'm looking forward back to that piece of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus this is more very strict, disciplined. There's not a lot. It's not that it's not enjoyable, not at all. I mean, look at the privilege it is to be able to eat meat as much as we are. I mean, that's pure privilege. However, that ability to really bring people together and enjoy a meal, that's what I'm looking forward to.
You know
So
what I enjoy?
I'm not sure
That's
which meal it'll be.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And you know what I enjoy about this carnivore is the simplicity. Like you said, it's not easy,
No.
like the strictness, but it's actually in how strict it is. There is a lot of freedom because
Yeah.
of there's really no thought into it.
Mhm.
It's like, no, I can't eat that. Like, there's no I'm
Yeah.
not really, it's up for me. I'm going 8 to 12 ounces of like
Yeah.
protein 4 times a day. And it's really like simple. Like I go in the fridge, no, can't eat that, can't eat that, eat that. Like it's
Yeah.
really made my going to the grocery store. And like I said, like for me
Yeah.
leaving the house at 4 in the morning to go open up the gym,
Yeah.
like I'm out of there in 2 seconds when it used to take me way longer to pack up a lunch and you be prepared for the day. So I'm really enjoying that part of it for sure.
I also found getting more inventive with, just figuring out what you can use on the meat, just instead of just salt.
Right.
You can figure out these little avenues of flavoring differently, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you also start to learn when you start to subtract things out of your life, the value of it, things you miss or like or enjoy, flavor. Okay.
Right.
That becomes serious. So those things come to the table, obviously.
Food
Um,
motivated.
again, food motivated, right?
Pavlov's
Uh,
dogs. That's what we've become.
yeah, literally. But it's interesting. I mean, we have become a society that's we got everything on tap. We got it on demand. We can have whatever we want pretty quick. The very first world. And when we start subtracting things, we start to go, okay. We start to appreciate things differently. Your mindset shifts. You start taking things for granted. You start appreciating things a little differently. And I
Yeah,
think
for
that's
sure.
important. I think that's seriously important. So,
For sure.
because we have that privilege. Privilege has turned into such a dirty word, but I'm actually using it in a positive light here. It is a privilege to live in North America. It is a privilege to eat as well and as continuously as we do. So when I do something like this, I really try to pay attention to how my mindset shifts and how do I enjoy it differently. What does it mean to me? Does the value of it change? We as human beings don't test our parameter. We love being comfortable. Oh my God, we love being comfortable, and we love our comfort zones. But that's not where we grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I, who pride ourselves on teaching mental toughness and have done some, we know we've both done some tough things, not the hardest things in the world, but we've done some hard things. And where I find myself sometimes is like, you do get out of practice.
Yeah.
I think I told the story last time when you were on a podcast about like being hesitant to jump off a small cliff into some deep water, and having jumped off buildings like all the time, and you lose the practice. And for me, it's abnormally cold here right now, and I have been out on some of these calls, like I walk out my truck and I'm like, I feel like I'm shivering, where I was like, when I was constantly doing these calls, it was nothing for me to throw on my gear and go and be out in the snow for 5 or 6 hours on these things and be like, the extra burden of carrying gear and managing like a team and leading and all those things. And now I'm finding myself, I get in my truck, and it's funny, when I bought this truck, it came with a heated steering wheel. I was like, I kind of laughed. I'm like, I don't need a heated steering wheel. Never had a heated steering wheel in my life. And Danny's truck does not have a heating steering wheel. And I got into her truck the other day and it was freezing cold. And I'm like, I grabbed the steering wheel. I'm like, oh, like, where's my gloves? Like, I couldn't, like, I'm like, I have actually become such a wuss that I can't even hold the steering wheel. And that's when like, it's like, okay, you need to like get out there. And like part of my challenge, which I'm doing, is I'm like getting outside every day has been one of my goals, or not one of the goals, one of my daily habits that I'm making sure that happens right now, because I feel like it's something that was lost for me for a little bit. And toughing that out and going out there in this cold for the last 5 or 6 days, I feel different, and it's not nearly as bad as it was day one. Yeah. I think that's just a little metaphor for anything you want to do. Yeah. It's like, one, you got to continue those habits only so good until it's not used anymore.
That's right.
And then it needs practice, and that day one is not going to be as bad, or day 5 is not going to be as bad as day one. And certainly day 30 is not as bad as day one.
Think of the first day you ever did a cold plunge.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh my God, this sucks. But as you consistently do it, your body starts to accept it. Your body changes the moment your mind says, I'm okay with this. The moment your brain says you're okay with something, your body follows it. And all of a sudden, something that was deeply uncomfortable becomes routine and comfortable, and you couldn't imagine not having it as a part of your routine. Now, I don't have a cold plunge here, but I take a cold shower every morning. And there are days it's like, it's a love-hate thing. It's like, okay, but the moment I'm in it, I'm grateful. But I remember the very first time going, what the hell am I doing? That I theoretically knew the science of why this is good for me, how this is going to reset my nervous system. It's going to, reduce inflammation in my joints that I've abused over the years. However, now I couldn't imagine it not being a part of my, a part of my world. And when I talk about doing the cold shower, I with clients, I'll say, try the cold shower, try it for a week. I have clients that'll come back to me, tried it once, never doing it again. Yes. It's just a cold shower.
But honestly, that's probably the person who needs it the most, and that, a lot of times it's the person who needs it the most, like whether that's a cold shower or, stop drinking or, give up sugar, it's like, because like it's going to hit you so hard, right? Like you need that cold shower so bad because you're not introducing yourself to those kinds of exposures. You need to quit the caffeine, whatever it is, right? Like it hits you so bad. And like I noticed, I know a lot of people, I didn't get it this bad this time, but the last time I did challenge someone to what I'm doing now is like the first 3 days of not, and I'm not even a high sugar person, I don't think. I was having headaches, and I swear it was from detoxing from the sugar. And like it's like, oh, one day and it hurt so bad I stopped. Well, you actually need to push through it because you need it so freaking bad. And I think that's how, whether it's your business, your life, your fitness, your whatever, the thing you need most is probably going to hurt a lot for the first couple of days, first couple of minutes or hours, or whatever the task is. But like, if you stick to it, it won't. And soon you'll kind of laugh, like people who are doing push-ups on their knees are doing push-ups with their feet up on a box now. And like they laugh at where they were 4 years ago. And that's just a metaphor for all kinds of things you can do in life.
Yeah, it's amazing. Nancy McKay once asked me, put me on the spot during a webinar with Alan Weiss. And she goes, Sean Bacon, what's the definition of mental toughness? And she literally on the spot. And I was like, it's amazing what on the spot will make you do in terms of coming with an answer. And I said, consistency and follow through. That's mental toughness. Consistency and follow through. It takes a lot of mental toughness to be consistent and actually follow through with something. People talk about stuff all day long. Can you follow through? Good or bad, like threat or promise. Can you follow through? And that's integrity. And your consistency is your discipline, the ability to do it. Whether it's 1 push-up today, 2 push-ups tomorrow, 4 push-ups the next day, whatever, but that consistency of the effort. And so let's say you fail one day, you get 3 push-ups, not your 4. Okay. Don't beat yourself up. You did 3. Next day you do 4. We tend to beat ourselves up or tell us we can't do it. So let's take that and snapshot it to a kid, a youth, a child. It doesn't matter. How often do we not give our children the opportunity to be uncomfortable or to fail or to fall down? We tend to save them or treat them like Fabergé eggs. Well, that little person is going to grow up to an adult that's going to be risk adverse, pain adverse. Okay. The fact that we need people like you and I doing mental toughness, psychological resiliency, leveraging disruption, crisis leadership, that's bizarre, because in our fathers and grandfathers' time, that was normal, that you had to show up. You needed to. There really wasn't another option. But we have now cultivated, every generation has worked very hard to make it their children's lives better, which is a noble pursuit. It's what I would do. But in doing so, we've also stopped them from getting the necessary experiences that teach them, I can get through this, or I didn't like that, but I know I can do it, or that wasn't as bad as I thought, or I never want to do that again. That really did suck. Okay, it doesn't matter where you are in that spectrum. Right. So we as adults, I think it's very, very important, especially cross-generationally. It doesn't matter if you're a boomer, an X gen, or a Y gen, or a Z gen. I don't care. It's so important for all of us to push our limits and become more, because our legacy, what are you leaving behind? Because in you getting better, you're making people better with you. It's not an individual pursuit. It's a communal pursuit. And I'm sure it shines really brightly in your gym.
I couldn't agree more with with everything you just said. And it's true. It's consistency, follow through, integrity, doing what you say when you say you're going to do it. Like that's the keys, and getting uncomfortable on a consistent basis, and knowing, that when opportunity presents itself, that you have, like, the risk adverse, I think, is a big one. Like at the very start of this, when you talked about, dynamic shift and knowing that you wanted to grow it. And then, but part of like creating a tactical plan is like knowing that there will be an opportunity to peacefully resolve this call or lethally resolve this call.
Yeah.
And when that opportunity presents itself, you have to be ready to take it or not take it. You don't always have to take it, but you have to be ready to consider that and make a quick decision, observe, orient, decide, act, right? We've talked about all the time, the OODA loop, get through it. But if you're not prepared and you're not preparing yourself for it by doing some of these things, like, it doesn't have to be cold showers, doesn't have to be a super strict nutrition, but it's got to be something. There's going to be something on a daily basis that challenges you, in my opinion.
I agree.
Some kind of habit that kind of sucks to get after every day.
I agree. We're not all David Goggins. Okay. However, I think, it behooves us to try, not to try to be David per se, but to try to push ourselves, even in a small way. This is another good one. I know that we're running out of time, so I'll probably end it here. But during COVID, people were talking about, well, be kind. I didn't see a lot of it. It takes an act of mental toughness to be kind, to rise above your own feelings and just be kind. When was the last time you were kind to an asshole? Well, he's an asshole. Or she's an asshole. Why would you be kind to them? Maybe they're just having a bad day. Maybe someone died. Maybe someone, you know, you don't know. And the thing is, simple things can be that challenge. Being kind on a day that you don't feel like it is a challenge. So embrace it. Being kind to that human being you don't necessarily like, maybe they need it more than you need to be holding something against them. I'm not asking people to give up their belief systems. I'm suggesting pick something, anything, and it can be simple as kindness.
Yeah. That's a great way to end it, actually. Kindness, like, it's way easier to be kind too. It's so much better for your soul, man. I mean, I think we're two people who like lived with a lot of anger for a lot of years. So take it from us, like, revenge serves no one. Kindness is like, you can just move on from a kind act, and especially if it's returned with anger again, like, hey, did my best, and then walk away from it. And I think that was that goes from going from the warrior to the monk to the to the old wise man, I think, too. Like, I think that comes a lot with maturity, and I'm trying to teach my sons that, hopefully get them there a little bit quicker. But hold your ground, don't be a pushover, but at the end of the day, return it with kindness, and most things will be good.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I always enjoy my chats with you, brother. I really do.
Yeah, man, the same. So if anybody wanted to get a hold of you for, maybe somebody's listening is like, hey, we're really interested in getting, maybe Sean, but especially Tony in there, for Dynamic Shift, how would they get a hold of you? Us, I gotta say.
Us. Thank you. And I'm glad you said that. You can get a hold of us at www.dynamic-shift.com. And we have a contact page there. You can get a hold of us through our LinkedIn account as well. Website's usually the best. And, reach out to us, ask us great questions. If we're not a fit, I know enough people that could be the right fit for you. And I've got a really amazing unit that can definitely bring something to the table that you can definitely use right now.
Yeah, man, looking forward to working with you. Looking forward to leveling up some organizations and giving back to this world a little bit more. So thanks for coming on today, man. I appreciate you so much.
No
and
worries.
Tell the gatekeeper I said hi.
Count on it. I got your 6.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Please follow us. You'll see Sean's contact in the show notes, as well as some of those other episodes we referred to. And we're over and out for today.
Now's the time to do more and be more.